you can give me the okay when it's ready to go. So for those of you who are tuning in, we're doing something pretty cool. We're pre-recording the show, but we're doing it live on Facebook. So for those of you who are watching, come out wherever you are. I want to see who you are. And so today we're going to learn about polycystic ovary syndrome. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get this right because I say it differently in my head. And so I'm trying to think and speak at the same time, and that doesn't work very well for me. So we have Amy Medling, who took her story and is using it to help others. She is a certified life health coach, and we're going to learn and grow about how we can heal our body. So we're about to get started. Oh, here we go. Okay, get ready. We can't talk to
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And we are not only on the air, we're on Facebook Live. I'm so excited about that. People are watching this broadcast as we are recording. And for those of you who have been listening to my show for the last 7.5 years, since 2011, or you just stumbled upon the show yesterday, welcome back. But if this is the first time that you have stumbled upon the show, whether you're on Facebook Live and someone shared it and they said, hey, you need to come on, then just know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening friend, will feel empowered to learn this new truth and live the life of your dreams. And so today, if we're going to be giving a book away, and I'm just going to say it right off the bat, I'm going to do the 10th caller or texter. And for those of you who are on Facebook Live, I want to encourage you to send me a private message, because then everybody's going to wait for the 10th caller or texter. Send me a private message on Messenger at Lillian's Radio Show. The book is by Amy Medling, and it's called Healing PCOS. It's a 21-day plan for reclaiming your health and life with polycystic ovary syndrome. And so I've always said polycystic ovarian syndrome. So this Aryan, it's got my brain all, because I was diagnosed with this a long, long time ago. How many of you have heard of PCOS or Pcos? Or there's so many different ways that people say it, but there's one thing that I want to nail today is that whenever we go through something, anything, chances are that if we look at that experience, if we look back with gratitude, or we look back, or maybe even while you're going through the experience, you will discover that there is or was a purpose. And so there's no difference in any scenario, you name it, how horrible it is, and I can say there is a purpose, because all things work out for the greater good. You've got to believe that, and when you do, you look at life in a different way. So with that in mind, certified health coach Amy Medling is the founder of PCOS Diva and the author of Healing PCOS, And of course, I just said the book, which we're giving away, The 10th Color or Texture. And she found herself in this journey. What journey that I was told that I had too, but I was told that no big deal. It's just your ovaries produce a lot of cysts. Okay, that's what I bought. But guess what? She didn't buy it. She became her own advocate. And not only did she become her own advocate, she turned it around so that the 100% responsibility, fourth question, how can you use your experience for the greater good? And she's done that. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Amy Medling is here to do just that. Welcome, Amy, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Oh, thank you so much, Lillian. I just have to say what a beautiful mission you have, and your theme song and this introduction. And you're absolutely right about how there's always sort of like a redemptive message in suffering, I think. And I'm really thrilled to be here to share my message.
Wonderful. And I'm glad that you're here, because as I was reading your book and I was learning more about PCOS, I thought, I still experience those symptoms. And so I am really excited. And for those of you who are listening or watching, I want to encourage you, the listeners, 407-373-5959. If you have any questions, if you hear yourself in the story, chances are you could look into this potential that might explain why you're feeling a certain way. So the number is 407-373-5959. Now, we're pre-recording this show, but we're also broadcasting live on Facebook. We'll both broadcast live on Facebook now, and also when the show airs for the first time, because this is a new thing that we're doing. So Amy, thank you so much. Share a little bit about your background and what led you to your own advocacy.
Sure. So PCOS, as you said, it stands for Polycystic Ovary or Ovarian Syndrome. It's sort of interchangeable. It affects up to 20% of all women worldwide. And the really scary statistic is that 50% of those women don't know that they have it.
Yes.
And I was really dealt with a myriad of symptoms as young as like 15, 16. I was experiencing hair loss.
Okay, so let's continue that conversation. That was unfair of me to ask you a question so soon to the break. And we're going to continue our conversation with Amy off the air at Lillian's radio show, but we're going to continue our conversation at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right to
right here waiting for you.
I don't know if it's on my ear or if that was with you too, Amy, but if you can just bring the music a little bit lower, that would be great, Robert. So today, for those of you who are watching, I want to see who's watching other than Deidre. Thank you so much, Deidre, for coming on. And I know that you probably, Amy's fans are probably on the show, listening as well. If you have any questions, I want you, during this time while we're on the break, you can ask about that, okay? So Amy, today we're going to be talking about PCOS. You talked about hair loss. So off the air, I'm going to share this with you. I've experienced hair loss, but I was told that just your ovaries are producing a lot of cysts. So why is that important? And I think that that's something that we can also talk about on the air.
Yeah, sure. So the hair loss is a common symptom of PCOS, and as well as hair growth or hirsutism, hair where you don't want it, typically like on your chin, your chest, like
Dang
anywhere.
it, those chin hairs.
And they're often a sign of high androgens or high levels of testosterone and male hormones. And that's actually one of the telltale signs of PCOS and is kind of one of the diagnostic criteria. And we can talk about that as well in a minute. But some of the other symptoms that I was struggling with was acne, and irregular menstrual cycles. Anxiety and depression, mood-related disorders are very common in women with PCOS. And I had, all this array of symptoms, and really all that the doctors had to offer was take a pill, a birth control pill, lose some weight, and kind of just live with your symptoms.
Okay, so that's where we're going to start, because I want to make sure that we repeat all of this, and I don't want to, the people that are watching on Facebook Live, I'm so grateful to you. We just saw that Amber is starting to read your book, and this is really, that must make you feel really, really good to write a book and know that it didn't just happen to you, it happened for you to share with others.
Yeah, there's a quote that I love, and I posted it recently on Facebook. I just pulled it up. When you're in a dark place, sometimes you tend to think that you've been buried, but perhaps you've been planted. So bloom. And that's really how I felt. I was in such a dark place then, and to realize that I'd be here now helping women, and find hope in the midst of a PCOS diagnosis. It's just so, I don't know, it just brings such joy to my heart.
I know. I can relate. I can relate. When I started looking at your book, and I started looking at, I'm thinking, this is exactly what the show is about. Normally we do shows like this, like we'll have all these doctors that are highly credentialed and, whole food, plant-based. And we talk about, that's my philosophy, is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. And I'm not against the pill. I am for doing everything you possibly can. So I want to talk to you about, while we're going on the air, about my journey with PCOS, and perhaps maybe I can identify for myself, with other people can identify along with me, or maybe if you, for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live right now, if you can identify, let us know. Give us a thumbs up, share, make sure you tell your friends that this is an important broadcast. This will be broadcasted again. So if you missed it the first time, you'll get it this time. Okay, so I think that we are ready to start the second segment and go on the air. Here we go.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn from one another. Today's teacher is Amy Medling. She is the author of Healing PCOS. Some people call it PCOS. Some people call it Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, or Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, or disease, or whatever. It's an important topic that affects both men and women. I say men because if you're dealing with a woman that has this condition, listen up, because you could help her if she's not listening alongside with you. So we're giving this book away. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and get a free copy of this book. And also, if you are watching currently at Lillian's radio show on Facebook Live, then you be the 10th message that I receive, and you too will get this free copy. So if you need to send it, just send it. And I will look at who sends the email first, and the 10th message that I get from you, you will win a copy. You can also, if you're not on Facebook Live and you're hearing this and you're at work and you're listening on your computer, just enter lily@whenyounneedafriend.com and you can email me. So many different ways that you can win this book. Amy, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is an important topic, one that I have this diagnosis and was told, oh, no big deal. Your ovaries produce lots of cysts. So let's talk about what is polycystic ovary syndrome.
Sure. So it's the leading cause of female infertility.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most prominent endocrine disorder found in women. And as I mentioned, it affects up to 20% of all women. And the scariest statistic is 50% of women don't know they have it. And it can lead to serious conditions like cardiovascular disease, endometrial cancer, type 2 diabetes. So it's something that it's really important to know that you have it. If you're, listening in and you can resonate with some of these symptoms that we're talking about, it's important to get a diagnosis and start treating it. And my book is really all about treating PCOS through lifestyle change.
Okay. And that's the key thing, because when I was going through I was in my early 30s when I was told that I had not only PCOS, but I also had hypothyroidism by my endocrinologist, who had me checked by my OBGYN. And my endocrinologist, I hear you say this is an endocrine issue?
Right.
My endocrinologist has never addressed this with me. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
That's not surprising. I mean, that's why it's so hard for women to get a diagnosis, because doctors are sort of treating the symptoms. And actually, many women with PCOS have hypothyroidism and even autoimmune thyroid, a condition called Hashimoto's thyroidosis. So I find that, women, you might go to your endocrinologist for blood sugar issues, or your thyroid, you go to a dermatologist for the acne and the hair loss, psychologist for the mood-related disorders, but nobody's really getting to the root cause of all of this array of symptoms, which for a lot of women, it's PCOS.
Okay, so you're not a medical doctor. You are a certified health coach. What kind of training do you have to be able to speak about, what to do? Why should we listen?
Well, I am a woman who has really been able to heal my body from PCOS, and I've taught, at this point, thousands of other women through my online programs over the past 10 years. This is my 10th year anniversary of of starting PCOS Diva and starting, the work that I have done. So I think that I come from it from a very different angle as, a woman who's healed her body through lifestyle change. And what I mean by that is mindset, stress reduction, food, detoxification, supplements. I mean, it's things that you're not really hearing about at your doctor's office.
And you became your own advocate, became your own medical detective, your own MD, and now you are able to share your story. And this worked for you. Again, this is Amy's truth. This is my truth. And it's up to you to be responsible to discover your truth. This is the show that hopefully will empower you to be your own advocate. I kind of got mad. I want to be honest with you. When I read that this is part of the endocrine system, that is the one thing that I go to a specialist for, is my for the hypothyroidism, and my endocrinologist knows that I was diagnosed. First of all, when I got the diagnosis of hypothyroidism and polycystic, my doctor said you should look like an obese bearded woman from the freak show and the zoo or the circus, is what she told me. Oh gosh,
that's really upsetting.
Yes. And so when I went to, and she sent me to another doctor to deal with it, and she said, you don't look like it. You don't look like someone who has polycystic ovarian, and you don't look like someone who has thyroidism and hypothyroidism. So let's talk about, what does it look like? What are the symptoms that people experience, and what makes this something that changes your body, your mood, everything about you?
Well, first of all, I will say that there is sort of this classic type of PCOS,
Yeah.
which you described, but in fact, 30% of women with PCOS are lean. You know, I guess the term is lean sisters,
Mm-hmm.
or thin PCOS,
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes, you know, we are overlooked. You know, I'm you know, in that category of women with PCOS as well. So the one important point to make is that PCOS is a syndrome, and it's an array of symptoms that present itself in a unique way for every woman. So, you know, some of the symptoms that we've talked about, you know, you might not experience hair loss or the hirsutism, but you might have, you know, excess weight or insulin resistance, which is a main driver of PCOS. Women with PCOS tend to have, you know, many different vitamin deficiencies. They tend to be low in B vitamins and vitamin D and magnesium and omega-3s. So the vitamin deficiencies can play a role in PCOS as well.
Sure.
But I think the way that a lot of women get diagnosed is when they're trying to get pregnant and they're not, you know, they're not ovulating, because anovulatory cycles and irregular menstrual cycles are kind of like a hallmark sign and is one of the diagnostic criteria. I had mentioned elevated androgens. That's another of the 3 diagnostic criteria. And then the final is polycystic ovaries as seen on an ultrasound. So if you right now have 2 out of those 3 criteria, then you would be diagnosed with PCOS.
Okay, so what is the difference between a syndrome and a disease?
Well, a syndrome is like an array of symptoms. It's not sort of a hard and fast presentation of versus like heart disease, that you know you have heart disease, or you know you have diabetes. I think that's what makes it so hard to diagnose, is because it is a syndrome and it's an array of symptoms.
Okay, so it's an array of symptoms that could be just about anything, right? And so, so when we're talking about what is happening to our body, and I was looking at the FSH and the LS, and I was looking at all this stuff. Let's talk about what is happening to the body that is manifesting all these conditions, and why are we making it worse by our lifestyle?
Right. So at the root cause of PCOS, there's 3 things going on. I write about this in the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's insulin resistance, inflammation, and hormone imbalance. So, you know, for a lot of women who struggle, I mean, I think that there's every woman with PCOS has some level of insulin resistance, but those with, you know, more of the centralized obesity, you know, have more insulin resistance than, you know, women that are thin. And insulin resistance is basically when cells fail to respond normally to the hormone insulin. So you have chronically high levels of insulin in the blood, and that can cause you know, lots of different PCOS symptoms, including the infertility, the obesity, the hirsutism, the hyperandrogenism can cause things like chronic fatigue and immune system issues. Disordered eating, that affects a lot of women with PCOS, and was something that I really struggled with early on. Lots of sugar cravings because insulin is not regulated. So that's where lifestyle change can play a huge role in helping to heal that insulin resistance and become more insulin sensitive. So making sure that you're on, I advocate, like you, Lillian, you know, a plant-based diet, you know, although I do think most women with PCOS need some clean animal protein to keep their blood sugar stable, but lots of healthy, you know, plant food, nutrient-rich food, and exercise is key, stress reduction, all of these lifestyle factors, key supplements like inositols and berberine can help with insulin resistance.
Yeah, and I want to talk about supplements and all of that later on in the show. I want people to understand what is, why do we get this? What is you talk about the root cause and the hormones and all of that, but what causes it?
Well, there is definitely a genetic component.
Okay.
And, if I look at my family history, my mother has PCOS, and she, in the 1970s, it was referred to as Stein-Leventhal disorder. And she actually had a ovarian wedge recession surgery in order for me to get pregnant. So there is and my sister has some signs and symptoms of PCOS, not presented in the same way that I do. So there's definitely a genetic component. So you can
tell on your DNA. If you had your DNA tested, you'd be able to see if you have a
I don't know if we have tests that's specific, like offered universally for that right now. I'm sure that's coming. And also there's been some studies that show that it can be passed from, your male relatives too. So, you can get it from your dad.
As you were talking about some of these symptoms, I'm thinking, can men get this? Because, there's a lot of people out there, they don't have ovaries. So how is it that men have some of the same symptoms that women? Is this like sympathetic? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's somewhat related to that insulin resistance and elevated androgens.
Very good. Okay, so for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, you too can participate in this. Be the 10th messenger to send it to me. But if you are on the radio and you're listening or watching on YouTube, be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and win a copy of Amy Medling's Healing PCOS. And you continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Join us at whenyouneedafriend.com and at Lillian's radio show.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Okay, so lots of it. When I say I got mad, I was thinking, okay, I've been going back to my endocrinologist now for I don't know how many years, letting her know that I'm experiencing hair fallout. My hair is getting thinner. And as I'm looking at these symptoms, I'm thinking, okay, she knows I was diagnosed with PCOS many, many years ago. My hair is falling out. Now I'm 55 years old. And as I get older, will my hair regenerate as fast as it used to when I was younger? And thinking all that, I'm thinking, why hasn't, she just checks my numbers for my thyroid and that's it. She says, your thyroid levels are good, so it's not that. What can I do to empower myself? If for many women who are now thinning their hair and they're thinking, okay, well, that's just age. That's bull. It's not age. So what can I do for thinning hair?
Well, I think for me, what has really helped me, and I'm a big advocate of, and I'm going to mention a product here. It's the Morocco Method hair care system. I think that, a lot of the chemicals in our beauty products can really affect us, and especially women with PCOS. I think we're really sensitive to chemical substances like BPA. We have more BPA in our blood. We've been shown to have other chemical substances in our blood at a higher rate than other women, other non-PCOS women. But anyway, the Morocco method it's kind of like mud shampoo, I guess you'd say. And it really has helped me with my hair and kind of regrow hair. And I've heard from a lot of women that it's helped as well. So that's something that I really have found to be very helpful. But I do think that it's important to get a complete blood work done, your complete thyroid panel. I think thyroid is often still kind of a root of hair loss, and making sure that is, treated and you're, at optimal levels, as well as, making sure that you're supplementing with or getting your vitamin D levels optimized. I think that's really important too. And I think also making sure that you're eating enough protein. I think a lot of women with PCOS, or just women in general, aren't eating enough protein.
How much is enough?
Well, I think that depends, on per person. Again, there's not any one size fits all approach, but I really like to use collagen-based protein. I've noticed a difference in my skin quality and my hair. And I think too, there's a place for essential oils. I think rosemary oil is really helpful in stimulating hair growth. And that's something that I use at nighttime, just a little, and castor oil as well.
I use
really
castor oil. Yeah, I use castor oil, but I also use castor oil for underneath my eyes. I don't know if you know about that little trick, but I stopped spending a lot of money on beauty products for like under eye creams and stuff, and I just use a little bit of castor oil in my eyes at night, and sometimes in the morning when as my regimen. So this is really important information for us to empower, be our own medical detective. Before we go back on the air, I wanted to just mention that when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, I want you to learn about talking about chemicals. Keep Me Safe Organics I've joined forces with Keep Me Safe Organics. They're part of sponsorship on my page. If you go to whenyouneedafriend.com and you click on the Keep Me Safe tree icon on my page, you will get 10% off. So if you enter Lily 10, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. Keep Me Safe Organics, what I love about them is that it's all organic, non-synthetic. And so we're putting a lot of chemicals on our body without knowing. Let's not have the makeup and our cleansers be a part of the toxicity that's adding to insulting us and making us sick. That's one. And then the next one that I want to point out is First Alternative Care. It's telemedicine at its best. Per household, it's $35 a month per household. And a household can have a neighbor or a distant relative living with you, a grandparent. It's $35 per household, and you get 24/7. You can call a doctor 24/7. And depending on your area where you live, they follow the telemedicine guidelines. But in Florida, if you live there, it's a doctor. I've only had doctors call me back, and 24/7. Midnight, at any time, you can call, and instead of spending the extra money in your life on a copay at a doctor or staying and waiting for the doctor to see you, that's a waste of money and time. $35 a month per household will get you all covered, and that includes dermatology, and that also includes 3 hours of mental health counseling. And so with PCOS, I wanted to mention that because many people that deal with depression deal silently. They withdraw. And so I want to encourage that if that is something that is more affordable to you, then maybe you can reach out. Just go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check out my featured sponsors. Click on that. And of course, Liberty Health Share, which, what else can I say about Liberty Health Share other than they're just absolutely amazing. And, that's a get rid of insurance and take your health back with a Liberty Health Share. That's libertyhealthshare.org. So I see that we're ready to get started, and we're going to enter into the nuts and bolts. I want to learn more about PCOS. And for those of you who have any questions and you're watching us on Facebook Live, welcome. You can ask at any time. Your questions and comments are welcomed. Okay, so here we go. They're going to mute our mics now.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we are heard worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. Go through life with childlike wonder. Today's topic is about PCOS. This is just not a woman's show. If you're listening, because you know what? 50%, it's split. 50% of men listen to my show. 50% of women listen to my show. So men, if you're listening, do yourself a favor. Take notes. Give the show to your significant other, the women in your life, because you may be able to help them from a much greater outcome. Because many women that have PCOS, listen, I know I have it, but I was told, so your ovaries produce a lot of cysts. Oh, good for you. So that was my care. So let's take our health back. I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Become your own advocate by subscribing to the show. This is how you help me. This is free advice, free coaching, free whatever it is that you want to call it. And then it'll empower you to embrace a new truth that even you don't know. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe, and while you're in there, click on all the different icons and like me, subscribe, share. Also, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. So this is what happens when you make this commitment of subscription. The show gets sent to you. So if you want the off the air, on the air conversation, you'll get the YouTube on the air, Facebook Live. You can get that on the air, off the air conversation, or you can do the podcast, which is, just the radio show version. Off the air conversations, you do not get that. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com, and this is where we do the empowerment and the responsibility movement well. And the one last thing I want to ask you to do when you're there on the site is that I want you to check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, this show would not happen. And without the generosity of your spreading the words, this would not happen. So check out my sponsors, figure out ways that you can support them the way they're supporting the show. Also, you can always go to my Facebook page at Lillian's Radio Show and figure out when we're going to have a show live. Today we are doing a pre-recorded show live on the air. Here we go. It's Amy Medling's book. It's Healing PCOS. It's a 21-day plan for reclaiming your health and life with polycystic ovarian or ovary syndrome. So with that in mind, be the 10th caller or texter at 407-373-5959. Also, you can be the 10th, the people that are watching the show that's being recorded on Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show. You can also send me a private message, and you will be able to win a copy of this book as well. Amy, thank you so much for being a part of this show. I really appreciate you being our teacher today.
Oh, I'm just thrilled to be here. And I just wanted to continue the conversation about, you had asked about where PCOS comes from. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about genetics. And, I definitely think that things like environmental stimuli, like your diet or these endocrine disrupting chemicals. And that's why it's so great to, have clean, organic, skincare, hair care, cleaning products, but they could sort of pull that PCOS trigger perhaps. But there's also the birth control pill. And when women come off of the birth control pill, they can often have signs and symptoms of PCOS. And, whether that's sort of a true PCOS, or it's just sort of this other kind of category. I don't think we're really sure yet. But there's a great resource, this Dr. Jolene Brighton. She's coming out with a new book at the end of the month called Beyond the Pill. And she has a great system for detoxing from the pill. And you can often sort of reverse those PCOS symptoms.
Jolene, what's her last name?
Dr. Jolene Brighton.
We'll reach out to her. Okay, Dr. Jolene Brighton, very good. My registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill, because I do take a thyroid pill. I do understand that short term, sometimes those things are needed, but long term, they cause side effects. So if you can do anything naturally to avoid or prevent or reverse, why not do that? So let's talk about polycystic ovarian. It sounds like to me, and as I was getting to know deeper into this plan, is it that our lifestyle triggers it, or is it that the syndrome triggers our lifestyle? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg type of thing?
Gosh, I don't know. I can speak for myself. And I certainly, as a teenager, was eating your standard teenager diet, right?
Yeah.
Pizza, ice cream, cookies,
Sure.
like lots of refined carbohydrates and not a lot of nutrition. And I really think that led to triggering my symptoms. I know that once I was able to kind of change my diet, and that wasn't really until my early 30s that I was able to really shift the way that I feel and my symptoms through diet and supplements and herbs and stress reduction and lifestyle, that all of those symptoms, disappeared. And now I'm thrilled to say that I don't really have PCOS on paper. If I go to my doctor and do my labs, you wouldn't know that I have PCOS.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So we go in, and I had a beautiful conversation with someone very special in my life who shared that she was diagnosed with PCOS, and she has not been able to have children. And I said, well, PCOS may not be the only thing that you need to be concerned about. Something like your cell phones emitting EMFs, and something like your food and your drinks are plastic. But is that what's causing it? What do the doctors immediately do for people who want to have children and can't have children? Now PCOS becomes the reason, as opposed to what can I do to eliminate that reason?
Yeah. And I think that a lot of women are told by their doctors that you have PCOS, you won't have children. And I was told that at age 17, that doctors would have to jump through hoops one day to get me pregnant. But I didn't really take that as my truth, because I knew that my mother had fertility issues, and I figured if she could figure it out, I could. And that was such a blessing for me, because I think that I don't want to minimize fertility issues, but I do think that mindset is so key. And if you've been told that you can't get pregnant and you believe that for your whole life, well, guess what? I see this happening with so many women.
Yeah.
That it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Correct.
And again, I know that infertility is real, and there's steps that we can take, but we have to start with mindset. For women with PCOS, the issue is that we're not ovulating as regularly as women without PCOS. And so much of that can be changed through lifestyle, and diet is, I think diet is always the first place to start. Making sure that you have exercise, and stress reduction is so key.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your body thinks you're being chased by the proverbial tiger, when you're being threatened, it's going to be difficult to be pregnant. So we have to work on stress reduction. There's key supplements like inositols that can help with fertility. And then there are pharmaceuticals like letrozole and Clomid, but now letrozole is considered first-line therapy as an ovulation inducer. I also think there's devices out there. There's a wonderful fertility monitor called OvuSense, and it predicts ovulation in women with PCOS with 99% accuracy. So you can start really gathering information about your body and your cycles.
Yeah, but you can also predict your ovulation by your body. There's things that your body
that
you've ovulated.
It's a little bit harder for women with PCOS because if you're looking at mucus, but the Ovisense monitor, it monitors your internal temperature, and it helps so many women with PCOS to really kind of figure out their fertility and to time things better. So I've seen a lot of help with that as well.
Yeah. So doctors are doing something more aggressive as opposed to saying, hey, go, reduce your animal proteins or animal products and increase your vegetables and reduce your toxics exposure and all that. Doctors aren't saying that. They're just basically saying, okay, let's do surgery or let's do metformin or do you think that the intervention, the medical intervention that way is better or worse, or just what is your recommendation for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always think that looking for an integrative or functional medicine practitioner to help you. There's a wonderful doctor, Dr. Mark Sklar. He's out in San Diego. He has online programs to help with fertility in all different aspects.
Wonderful to know. And the beauty is that there is hope. PCOS.
Yes, so much
there is hope. So we're going to continue talking about that hope when we return. 407-373-5959. We'll get you a copy of Healing PCOS. And we're going to continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Thank you, Rosa. I'm looking at the comments. I didn't even realize there were some more comments here from Rosa. Thank you so much. I don't know if you're from Germany, but she was saying that she can buy your book in German now.
Yeah, it was. I'm thrilled. It was translated into German and Polish. So yeah, it was just published in Germany in the last month. So that's thrilling.
Congratulations. Okay, so I do want to talk about supplements because and of course your plan. I mean, I think people should really look into eliminating. When we get started on the air, I want to talk about the plan quickly because we won't be able to do. I want people to understand PCOS is a syndrome and that it could be causing symptoms that we don't know what they are. Maybe a next show we can do, if you decide that if we can do this again, maybe we can talk about the plan and how to affect that. But I do want to nail some of I had never heard of this inositol or whatever you call it.
Oh, inositol.
Inositol. Yeah, I've got it IN, but the way I write it looked like an M. Inositol. I was reading about it in your book, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And some of the things that we can do to alleviate these symptoms. And so I wanted to say, so Amber wants to know, do you know how long inositol takes to work? I've tried it for one cycle, but my cycle was even longer.
Yeah, good question, Amber. A lot of the studies that are done on inositol, they're looking at women on it for 6 months or more. So I would really give it 6 months. I know a study just came out that said that it outperforms metformin, and helping with insulin resistance and some of the other markers of PCOS. Something that I take every day. I really think it helps with my mood related issues, my anxiety, as well as my insulin resistance. So yeah, I think one cycle is probably not enough. So give it 6 months.
Yeah, we are so impatient sometimes. I'm not saying you, Amber, but sometimes we can be impatient when we find the answer. It's like we want it fixed now. Like people that it takes 9 months to get, have a baby and 9 months to put on weight, and people want to get their weight off in 1 week. And good for you if you can do that. But it took you 9 months to build. It takes 9 months to get it off. Give yourself that time and just enjoy your body. Enjoy that experience so that, look at what happened with you, Amy. I'm sure you went through heck and back, and now you're able, because of your experience, able to help so many people. But here's the thing. You're focused on PCOS. When someone comes to you, how do you know that symptom of hair fallout or something isn't something else? Are you able to help other people that maybe don't have PCOS?
Well, I think, Lillian, there's so many things that you do, like with lifestyle change, like changing your diet and, it's being more mindful.
That's
and
across the board,
it's
right?
across the board. And what's so cool is that women who adopt the lifestyle of a PCOS diva, and their husbands and their kids start eating the way they eat, like it really changes the health of the entire family.
Yeah.
And that certainly was the case for my family. And
Yeah.
now I have 3 children, and they're all kind of like wellness warriors. And
That's wonderful.
They understand how food makes them feel, and that's just, and they understand how to cook and prepare, healthy food from scratch. And it's one of the best gifts that I feel like I've given them.
Very good. Well, I see that we're ready to go back. So we're going to be muted so we can go back on the air. So for those of you who have questions on Facebook Live, feel free to ask, because we'll have a question and answer session after the show is recorded. Okay? Here we go. You can dance while you're listening to the music.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. It's the fastest hour ever on Healthy Empowerment Radio. I want to encourage you to share that the show is on the air and on internet, Facebook Live, at Lillian's radio show. It's also on, YouTube and podcasts. You name the podcast, I'm probably on there. So let's grow the show this year so we can all feel empowered to live the life that we want, not somebody else's life, but the life that we want. So the book is called Healing PCOS, which stands for Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And for those of you who don't even know what this is all about, this is what the show is, to dip our toe in it, not necessarily to talk about everything about PCOS, but if you hear something there, then you must become a diva. And you can go to PCOSdiva.com to learn a little bit more about Amy's coaching. She is a health coach, certified health coach. I'm a certified life coach. And so, it's so funny. We go to someone because we want to figure out something on the total opposite. We think that that's the problem, but the reality is, once you start digging, you take out your soul shovel and you dig until there's only truth, you find that there is a beautiful gift inside of it. And so that is what Amy's been doing. Amy, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I would love for you to share your story of how the diva, the PCOS diva, came out of you.
Oh, yeah. So it has been really a long journey for me. As I mentioned early on, as a teen in my 20s, I really struggled with so many PCOS symptoms. I felt like I was living kind of a less than life. I wasn't able to get off the couch many days because I had such chronic fatigue. But it was after I had 2 beautiful boys, with the help of fertility drugs, as I had mentioned earlier, Clomid. And I just could not be the mom and wife that I wanted to be. And I really had hit a roadblock because all that was offered to me at the doctor's office was the birth control pill and metformin, which is a diabetic drug used for women with PCOS. Yeah. And both of them made me horribly sick. And I realized that nobody was going to fix this for me, that I had to kind of take things into my own hands, and spent a lot of time researching on PubMed, looking for studies of like alternative therapies, and just became kind of the guinea pig and tried different ways of eating and different supplements. And over time found a lifestyle that really worked for me. And basically, long story short, my OBGYN saw the difference. She saw the lab values improve and wanted to know, what I was doing. I shared with her what I was doing, and she ended up kind of on the side sending me patients' emails that couldn't tolerate metformin or the pill either. And I shared what I was learning. And they were improving, and I thought, gosh, I'm on to something. And I ended up going back to school to become a health coach, and started PCOS Diva now 10 years ago.
Oh,
and I ended up, after doctors told me I would never get pregnant, that I would never get pregnant without fertility treatments, I ended up at age 37 having a healthy little girl. And she was a surprise, but a beautiful surprise, and really started this mission of mine, because I knew she had that genetic predisposition for PCOS. And, if she, God forbid, she does get it, she's now 9 now. So, we're probably a few years away from,
I would say, I hope so.
But knowing that PCOS isn't the negative thing that I once thought it was, it's this opportunity to live life like a diva. And what I mean by being a diva is just really advocating for yourself and getting what you need. And when I started doing that, and it was just this real specific incident at a restaurant when I was making sure that I, had a gluten-free meal with no inflammatory fats. And I was in a nice way being a diva. And that's when my husband said, gosh, when have you become such a diva? And it was an aha moment for me that I needed to take care of myself in order to be healthy and take care of those that I love.
Yeah. Aha moment. Did you go, aha, karate chop him? Or did you?
Yeah, pretty much.
A comment like that is like, okay, you're asking for it, buddy.
I know.
Okay. So, here's the thing about what I talked about at the beginning of the show, how everybody has their own journey and everything has purpose. And I'm here to ask you, if you had to choose between your child going through the journey that you went through to figure out about PCOS, or you doing it, or you going through it, what would you choose?
Well, of course, you don't want to see your child suffer, but sometimes that's really when they're being refined. My oldest son went through a major medical crisis this summer and fall, and he has grown so much as a human being that, you see that when we thought he was buried, he was really planted, and now he's blooming, just like I mentioned earlier. So,
but with PCOS, she's not starting from scratch like you.
No, she is not.
Yeah, so you could look at that as a curse that happened to you. Like you said, you were planted to bloom. And so that is the point of all of us, that we're going through trials, that we're going through whatever it is. If you're going through it, and you go through it gracefully and look at the beauty and the blessing in it, your children will also learn and grow with you. Mm-hmm. It's not just you. So let's talk about, the Pcos Diva and the 21-day plan. What are some of the things we can eliminate? You talked about gluten. I don't eat gluten and dairy, and I haven't, before I even knew that PCOS was affected by that as well. So let's talk about some of the things we can immediately eliminate.
Yeah, I think that, the first chapter of the book is all about mindset. So eliminating a lot of negative self-sabotaging thinking, that to me is the first step. And in the book, I talk about, switching your mindset, because until you start thinking like a PCOS diva, you can't live like one. And it makes it hard to eat like a PCOS diva, which is the next chapter. Right. But yes, anything that it's inflammatory, gluten, dairy, and then maybe even taking it a step further and finding out what your food sensitivities are. Mm-hmm. I know I found out recently that I was sensitive to eggs and was causing a lot of inflammation. So, removing those inflammatory foods and eating an anti-inflammatory diet is really at the heart of the PCOS Diva plan. And before we went offline, we were talking about supplements, and we're not really able to get into all of the details about supplements, but just wanted to let listeners know that I have some free resource guides at my site for supplements and labs, the labs that you want to ask for. And then I have a great comprehensive guide called the PCOS 101 guide, and it really gives you all of the details if you've just been diagnosed, how to be a diva and advocate for yourself.
Well, again, this is like dipping our toe in an ocean. There's a lot of information. Again, PCOS is not the end-all be-all here. What we're looking at is changing our lifestyle, which is what we promote, a healthier mentality. If you think it, you feel it, you do it. And so we're so obedient that if a doctor says to us, you can't have children, we won't have children. But how many people with PCOS have children? I'm one of them. And so, and you're one of them. And I didn't use fertility and because I didn't even know, so it's the mindset is crucial.
Oh, it's so important.
And what I'd like to do is, if you have the time after the show airs, I want to continue our conversation and go into kind of a little bit more detail of the labs and the things like we need to add, like I asked for elimination, but add. You mentioned during the broadcast that that protein is crucial for people with PCOS. And there are people that are protein deficient. We're not talking necessarily about animal products, but tell us a little bit more about why we're, actually, let me just hold off here. For those of you who want to continue this conversation off the air, I've seen that we're wrapping up now. Amy, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate your journey. We're going to continue later on. So thank you. And for those of you, 10th caller texter, healing PCOS, call 407-373-5959. It's time to take your health back. You know how to do it. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Awesome. Okay, good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so for those of you who are still hanging on, you're hanging on. Thank you so much, Sung, for buying the book. So Sung said that she bought the book last week, and so thank you so much, Sung. And for all of you who have been watching today on Facebook Live, I would like to encourage you that if you have any questions while we're going to be talking about maybe a little bit more details, like you talk about, what's the most, like your smoothies that you do, and what's the most that you can, like you suggest in a day. That works for you. Maybe somebody else might be a little bit different. But so let's talk about the lab work that people can do so that they can for sure. Do they know for sure that they're PCOS?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the diagnostic criteria, you get the diagnosis through the Rotterdam criteria, which is 2 out of the 3 of the following: the polycystic ovaries, the elevated androgens is seen in lab work, and we could talk about that in a minute, and then inovulatory cycles or irregular cycles. Mm-hmm. So once you kind of have that established, then I do think that it's important to get some blood work done and to be able to understand what you're asking for, so you can be a diva at the doctor. And that's why I actually just pulled it out. I have this labs guide that is available on my site, and
nice.
It goes through all of the labs that you want to ask for, and I list what some of the normal ranges are, and so you can actually get your labs. And I really want you to make sure that you get a full, complete thyroid panel. And Lillian, you suffer with hypothyroidism, and once you're treated for that, it can make such a huge difference in the way you go about your day and the way that you feel. And so many doctors are just testing TSH, but you really have to ask for them to test free T3 and free T4, as well as the TPO and TG antibodies to be tested for Hashimoto's, because so many women with PCOS have Hashimoto's, and it's an autoimmune condition. It can make once you can treat that as well, it makes a huge difference in the way that you feel. And then the other thing that is really kind of cool is I've discovered this direct-to-patient lab. It's a doctor, a friend of mine, who started it. It's called yourlabwork.com. And if you go to yourlabwork.com/PCOS Diva, we've listed there all of the labs that I recommend, and many more, a lot of nutrient labs to find out if you're low in vitamin D and B12 and magnesium. And you can go that without a doctor's visit, which is so cool. You don't have to pay for a doctor's visit. You can order your own labs.
I would like to learn about that too, because
do it for you.
Yeah, and because I talk about first alternative care with the telemedicine. I mean, you can really save some money by doing some things like that, and becoming our own medical detective, our own MD, and being able to discover all these things. So it's good to know that you have these labs where people can just go and check them off and know. That's a good job, Amy, for doing that. Okay, so you talked about wheat and dairy. Are there any other things that seem to be triggers? You said eggs, and those are 3 things that I can't have, interestingly enough.
Well, not eggs for everybody, but eggs that, for people who are sensitive or have a food intolerance to.
Yeah. But I wonder if people who have PCOS also have these sensitivities too.
Yeah, and actually at yourlabwork.com, they do test for those food sensitivity panels. I think it's like $300 or something, but you can find out all of those foods that you're reactive to, and that has been really great. And my husband did it as well, and he's really sensitive to peanut butter and fermentation, like anything that's been fermented like through yeast, like bread and beer. And once he removed all of that, really helped his GI issues. So it can help so many different ways. So it's really, getting at that inflammation by removing those foods, but also vegetable oils. I really just exclusively cook with coconut oil, butter, ghee, some avocado oil, and olive oil. So, making sure that you're cooking with healthy oils is really important.
Okay, so I've learned to cook without oils, so I wonder if there's any connection between, so I use I'll do a wine saute or a broth saute or anything to that effect, but I eliminate oils. Is that something that...
Well, sometimes the oils do help you absorb nutrients better. So if you use oil on your salad dressing, it's actually helping you absorb the nutrients better.
Well, I will use the whole oil. So I'll have if I want avocado oil, I'll have an avocado. If I want a walnut oil, I'll have the walnut. So that's I focus on whole food as opposed to the oil. So is that something that I need to look at, or is that something that as long as I'm getting it, it doesn't matter how I get it?
Yeah. And I think too, I'm all about sustainability. I mean, you want to be able to live this lifestyle over the course of a lifetime.
Sure.
And you know what? I love some roasted vegetables that have a little oil that, makes them crispy and, caramelizes the flavors better. So, that's why I like to use oils in my cooking. I think it enhances the flavor.
Yes. But, you probably use a small amount. Small amount. Sometimes you're like, all of a sudden it becomes like the main meat there is the oil. Okay. So now with that in mind, anything else that you would like for us to embrace or learn? Because, we don't know we can feel better. And that's the thing that I want people to understand, that sick is not better. when you're feeling sick and you know there's something that's off in your body, it could be an emotional, a spiritual, because the mindset that you talk about, many of us carry traumas in our life that we are unwilling to deal with. Those things can bring us down as well. But keep working on that, as well as nutrition, is so important. So on top of that, Amy, is there anything that you would like to add to make us aware that if we have PCOS, then this is something that we may want to look at?
Well, I just think that first of all, I always like to just have that message of hope. There's so much hope if you're suffering right now. I was there with you, but I don't suffer anymore, and you don't have to either. So there's so much hope, and so much is within your control. And I think you're absolutely right, Lillian, that it's so integrated. Oftentimes when like PCOS for me was a sign that things were out of balance in my life. And whether that was, spiritual, as you mentioned, I think a lot of people don't think about that. I think a lot of women with PCOS who are really struggling have lost a connection with their creativity and, their creator and their creator. Yeah. And so, right, getting back in touch with what makes your soul sing. And it's okay to feel, pleasure. And, I think so many of women who are suffering are doing everything for everybody else and putting themselves last on the list. So that's sort of that concept of being a diva, that in order for you to serve the way that you are put here on this earth to serve, you have to take care of yourself. And so really looking at all aspects of your life, in my book, I have use sort of like a life coaching tool that you're probably familiar with, that wheel of a balance, and look in areas of your life where things are off balance and try to bring things more back in balance, and you'll be amazed how your health will shift for the better as well.
Interesting. Dr. Lee Cowden and I've done a lot of shows on spirit, mind, body. It used to be mind, body, spirit, but I've changed the order, and I know a lot of people are changing the order. And I remember, saying mind, body, spirit, and focusing on, as a life coach and as personal, we're supposed to be self-cleaning ovens, working on myself and working on, things that I want to focus on, that I want, that positivity is so important. And I remember Dr. Lee Cowden, who is an expert, world-renowned expert on just about everything, but what is the bite, the insect bite, the tick bite? I remember
Lyme disease.
Lyme disease. For some reason, the name, I was bumped in the head, so I sometimes I forget the names real quick. But he goes, it's amazing that when we work on the spiritual aspect, and the spirit, that the emotion and the body will repair quicker. We can spend a lot of money on the body and trying to focus on the symptom or what we call a diagnosis, the body is calling a symptom. So we take a symptom and we turn it into a diagnosis, when in reality that's our body speaking to us that something is off. And when he said that on the show, if we just were to start with the spiritual and work our way to the emotional, then the body will heal quicker. But we can spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to tweak the body, which we see with pharmaceutical industry. They're saying, okay, let's mask this, mask that. Like you're talking about the pill only masks the symptoms. It doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
Then we will carry that diagnosis around and ignore our body. But so your body was speaking to you. How long did it take you to hear it?
Oh gosh, years, many, many years. But it wasn't until I reached sort of my rock bottom, I guess you'd say, that I finally was open to, a new way of healing.
Isn't that true? And isn't it wonderful that through your journey, maybe somebody else doesn't have to go through rock bottom?
Yes, I hope I can, fast track for people. And I hope that this, I really do think that this book will do that. If you just follow the plans, the step by step. It doesn't have to be perfect. I talk about progress, not perfection. But just every morning kind of recommit to this PCOS Diva lifestyle, and you will see a difference.
Well, thank you so much, Amy Medling. And this is, I think, the first of many conversations, because, PCOS is, could be something else. It could be anything, because once you start focusing on maybe that symptom, the array of symptoms, it might be able to help other things that were underlying that might be able to repair itself as you give your body what it needs. The body is an incredible healing tool. And if we give the body what it needs, it's amazing how it will respond. So thank you so much for you doing what you're doing. I'm sorry that you went through what you went through, but you did it for all of us. And so thank you for going through it in a way that you're not hoarding the information, that you are sharing the information. So congratulations on 10 years and your book in Germany. And for those of you, I want to remind you, if you're just tuning in on Facebook Live, that we are giving away, if you send me an instant message, your 10th message, the 10th person who sends me a message will get a free copy of this book. I'll just need your email address, and Amy will send it to you. And so I am so grateful for you're watching to the end, and I hope that this has been helpful. Sprinkle some salt on you so you're thirsty for some more truth, and like it, share it, send it to your friends, help the show grow. If you have any questions or comments, my number is 407-373-5959. And for now, I'm going to end the Facebook Live unless there's somebody else. Oops, hold on a second. Amber, thank you so much for your support today, Amber. Amber says, feels so good to hear. Thank you so much for your encouragement. And also, I love the holistic approach to healing. I love what I read. Very good. I'm glad that you were sick today at home and you were able to. Thank you so much, Amy. I hope you feel better. And for those of you who will watch the show over and over again, I'm glad you found it. And perhaps you need to know that there are no accidents. That's always purpose. And take whatever has happened to you and turn your pain into purpose, and share it with someone so that you can grow. And I love that visual of planting. You think what was that quote again? Quoting your.
Yeah, when you think you're buried, you're actually being planted.
Yes.
So bloom. Yeah.
Bloom where you're planted. Thank you so much, Amy. And I look forward to our next conversation. Let me just go ahead and turn off I'm going to turn off the stream so we can wave goodbye. There you go. And then I will turn off the recording. Hold on. If I can figure this out. I've done this a bajillion times. Here we go. See you guys until the next conversation.